Most people think emotional power is something you're born with. They imagine it's confidence, a strong personality, or the ability to always have the right words at the right time. But if you look closely, the people who never seem emotionally shaken aren't the loudest in the room. They're often the quietest. While others react, they observe. While others chase validation, they protect their peace. While others let anger, jealousy, and disappointment control their decisions, they quietly build habits that keep their emotions under their command. The truth is, emotional power isn't revealed in the moments when life goes your way. It's revealed when you're ignored, underestimated, criticized, betrayed, or tested. That's where most people lose control. That's where a few people become stronger. The difference isn't talent, it isn't luck. It's a collection of silent habits practiced behind closed doors. Habits so subtle that most people never notice them, yet powerful enough to change the way someone experiences every challenge, every conflict, and every setback. Most people believe their emotions are honest guides. They feel anger, so they speak. They feel offended, so they retaliate. They feel rejected, so they withdraw. They feel disrespected, so they strike back with words sharper than the wound itself. The strange thing is that very few people ever stop to question whether the emotion they feel in a moment deserves control over their next decision. They hand over the steering wheel to whatever emotion arrives first, and then spend hours, days, or even years dealing with the consequences. The people who maintain emotional power understand something different. They know that the first emotional reaction is often the least trustworthy version of themselves. When pressure appears, most people become predictable. A single criticism can ruin their mood. One rude comment can dominate their thoughts for the entire day. A disagreement becomes a personal attack. A delay becomes disrespect. A mistake becomes proof of failure. Their emotions grow larger than reality itself. They don't see situations as they are. They see them through the lens of whatever they happen to feel in that moment. The result is a life controlled by impulses instead of choices. Emotion moves fast, wisdom moves slowly. That's why emotional power rarely looks impressive at first. It doesn't announce itself. It doesn't demand attention. It often appears as silence when everyone expects an argument. It appears as patience when everyone expects revenge. It appears as calm observation while everyone else is rushing to defend their pride. Most people mistake this restraint for weakness because they assume strength means immediate action. They think power means having the last word. They think dominance means proving a point. They don't realize that reacting instantly is often the easiest thing a person can do. Anyone can lose their temper. Anyone can send the angry message. Anyone can slam the door, raise their voice, or make a decision fueled by frustration. There is nothing rare about emotional explosions. They happen every day. What is rare is the ability to sit with an emotion without becoming its servant. To feel anger without obeying it. To feel fear without surrendering to it. To feel humiliation without allowing it to shape your identity. The people who never lose their emotional power have a habit that others barely notice. They create space between feeling and action. Sometimes that space lasts a few seconds. Sometimes it lasts a few hours. Sometimes it lasts long enough for an emotion to reveal what it truly is. Because emotions are strange visitors, they arrive loudly, demanding attention, convincing you they will stay forever. Yet many disappear the moment you stop feeding them. The insult that felt unbearable this morning becomes meaningless by evening. The problem that seemed catastrophic suddenly looks small a week later. The anger that demanded revenge quietly fades when given enough time. Most people never discover this because they react before the emotion has a chance to settle. They mistake intensity for importance. Just because something feels powerful does not mean it deserves a response. Some emotions are nothing more than temporary storms passing through the mind. Responding to every emotional impulse is like rebuilding your house every time the weather changes. There is also a hidden advantage to delaying reactions. You begin to see people more clearly. Emotional people reveal themselves through impatience. They expect instant responses. They want immediate reactions. They rely on provoking emotions because they know emotions can override judgment. The moment you stop reacting automatically, their influence weakens. The game changes. You become harder to manipulate because your decisions no longer belong to the emotions others try to create inside you. A calm mind notices details that an emotional mind ignores. It sees motives behind words. It sees patterns behind behavior. It recognizes when a situation deserves attention and when it deserves indifference. While others are trapped inside emotional noise, emotionally powerful people are quietly collecting information, watching, listening, understanding more than they reveal, allowing time to separate truth from emotion, reality from assumption, and wisdom from impulse. Most people have an irresistible urge to reveal everything they feel. The moment life becomes difficult, they search for someone to tell. The moment they face a setback, they broadcast their frustration. The moment they feel lost, they begin exposing every detail of their struggle to anyone willing to listen. They believe openness automatically creates strength. They assume that sharing every wound will somehow heal it. What they rarely realize is that not everyone who listens is rooting for them. Not everyone who asks questions cares about the answer. Some people are curious, not compassionate. Some are entertained by your struggles more than they are concerned about them. The people who never lose their emotional power understand a quiet truth that most people learn too late. The more access people have to your emotional state, the more influence they often gain over it. Every insecurity revealed becomes information. Every fear exposed becomes leverage. Every weakness displayed carelessly becomes something others can remember, interpret, misuse, or weaponize when circumstances change. This doesn't mean emotionally powerful people are cold, distant, or incapable of trust. It means they are selective. They understand that privacy is not secrecy. Privacy is protection. There is a difference between asking for guidance and making your pain public. There is a difference between seeking support and seeking attention. One is driven by growth. The other is often driven by emotion, looking for immediate relief. When most people experience hardship, they desperately want validation. They want someone to confirm that they are right, that life is unfair, that their anger is justified, that their disappointment makes sense. For a brief moment, sharing their struggle feels comforting. The problem is that comfort can become addictive. Instead of solving problems, they begin talking about them. Instead of rebuilding themselves, they repeatedly relive the wound. The struggle becomes part of their identity because they keep feeding it with attention. Emotionally powerful people approach difficulty differently. When life hits them, they don't immediately rush to announce their pain. They sit with it, they study it, they try to understand it before explaining it. They know that emotions are often at their loudest when they are least understood. Speaking too quickly can turn temporary emotions into permanent narratives. A bad day becomes my life is falling apart. A setback becomes nothing ever works for me. A disappointment becomes everyone is against me. The story grows larger every time it is repeated. There is another reason they keep many struggles private. They understand human nature. People are drawn to strength, but they are fascinated by vulnerability. Unfortunately, fascination is not the same as loyalty. Many people enjoy hearing about someone's difficulties because it gives them something to discuss, compare, or secretly feel better about. The world is full of individuals who will comfort you with their words, while quietly celebrating the fact that you are struggling. Emotional power comes from recognizing this reality without becoming bitter about it. The strongest people often carry battles that nobody sees. They walk into rooms with calm expressions while handling pressures that would overwhelm others. They do not hide their struggles because they are pretending to be perfect. They hide them because they understand that constant exposure weakens focus. Every time you explain your pain to someone, you revisit it. Every time you repeat the story, you relive the emotion attached to it. Every retelling gives the wound another opportunity to remain active inside your mind. While others are busy explaining their problems, emotionally powerful people are quietly working on solutions. While others seek sympathy, they seek clarity. While others advertise every obstacle, they reserve their energy for overcoming it. Their silence confuses people because silence is often mistaken for the absence of struggle. In reality, it is frequently a sign of discipline. They know that some victories grow best in private. Some lessons become stronger when processed internally. Some battles lose their power the moment you stop presenting them to the world for approval. They understand that emotional power is not measured by how many people know what you're going through, but by how well you can carry your burdens without allowing them to control your behavior, define your identity, shape your self-worth, or become the center of every conversation you have. Most people spend their lives chasing something they rarely admit they need. They want approval, they want recognition, they want reassurance that they are doing well, thinking correctly, looking successful, and moving in the right direction. It starts small. A compliment feels good. A little praise creates confidence. Someone notices your effort, and you feel valued. There is nothing wrong with that. The problem begins when approval stops being something you appreciate and becomes something you depend on. The moment your self-worth requires permission from other people, your emotional power quietly leaves your hands. The strange thing about validation is that it never stays satisfied. The more you need it, the more you crave it. One compliment is not enough. One achievement is not enough. One moment of recognition quickly fades, creating the need for another. People begin building entire identities around the reactions of others. They adjust their opinions to avoid criticism. They change their behavior to gain acceptance. They hide parts of themselves because our authenticity becomes less important than approval. The people who never lose their emotional power understand a reality that many people spend years avoiding. Most opinions are temporary. Today's supporters can become tomorrow's critics. The same crowd that applauds you can eventually ignore you. The same people who praise your decisions may question them when circumstances change. If your confidence is built on external approval, then every changing opinion becomes a threat. Every criticism feels like an attack on your identity. Every rejection feels like proof that something is wrong with you. This is why emotionally dependent people often live in a constant state of tension. They are not making decisions based on what they believe is right. They are making decisions based on what they think will be accepted. Before speaking, they wonder how others will react. Before taking action, they imagine potential judgment. Before pursuing goals, they seek permission from people who have never lived their lives. They become prisoners of invisible audiences that exist mostly inside their own minds. Emotionally powerful people move differently. They listen to feedback, but they do not worship it. They appreciate respect, but they do not require it to function. They enjoy recognition, but they are not controlled by its presence or absence. Their confidence comes from something deeper than applause. It comes from knowing who they are when nobody is watching. There is a certain freedom that appears when validation is no longer your fuel. Suddenly, criticism loses much of its power, not because criticism never hurts, but because it no longer defines reality. Someone's negative opinion becomes information rather than a verdict. Rejection becomes an experience rather than an identity. Disapproval becomes a possibility rather than a disaster. Most people don't realize how much energy they waste trying to manage perceptions. They spend hours wondering what others think. They replay conversations. They analyze facial expressions. They search for hidden meanings in simple interactions. Their emotions rise and fall according to signals they cannot control. A compliment improves their day. A cold response ruins it. A little attention creates confidence. A little neglect creates insecurity. Their emotional state becomes a puppet controlled by countless external strings. The emotionally powerful person cuts those strings one by one. They stop measuring their value through popularity. They stop needing everyone to understand them. They stop expecting universal approval because they understand that it does not exist. No matter how kind, intelligent, talented, or successful someone becomes, there will always be people who disagree, criticize, misunderstand, or dislike them. There is something unsettling about a person who no longer desperately seeks validation. They become difficult to manipulate. Praise cannot easily control them because they are not starving for it. Criticism cannot easily break them because they are not defined by it. Social pressure loses much of its influence because their decisions are anchored internally rather than externally. While others constantly scan the room looking for approval, emotionally powerful people are focused on alignment. They ask different questions. Instead of asking whether everyone agrees, they ask whether they are being honest with themselves. Instead of asking whether people approve, they ask whether their actions reflect their values. Instead of chasing admiration, they pursue self-respect, understanding that a person who requires constant validation will always be emotionally dependent on forces beyond their control, while a person who can stand comfortably without approval possesses a kind of quiet strength that cannot be taken away by criticism, rejection, silence, indifference, or the changing opinions of the crowd. Most people believe they are in control of themselves until they encounter someone who isn't. The moment another person becomes angry, aggressive, disrespectful, or emotionally unstable, their own emotions begin to mirror the chaos in front of them. One raised voice creates another. One insult triggers a response. One act of disrespect becomes the beginning of a battle neither side planned to fight. It happens so quickly that most people never notice what they surrendered. They think they are defending themselves, but in reality, they have handed control of their emotions to someone else. The people who never lose their emotional power understand something that feels almost unfair once you see it clearly. The person who remains calm usually controls the direction of the situation. Not because they are louder, not because they are stronger, not because they always win the argument. They control it because they are the only ones still thinking while everyone else is reacting. Emotion is contagious. Anger spreads, fear spreads, panic spreads, frustration spreads. Walk into a room where people are losing control, and you can almost feel the tension moving through the air. Most people absorb that energy without realizing it. They become emotional simply because someone around them is emotional. Their mood changes, their judgment changes, their behavior changes. They allow another person's internal storm to become their own. Emotionally powerful people refuse to participate in that exchange. They understand that just because someone brings chaos into a situation does not mean chaos deserves a place inside them. They recognize that another person's anger belongs to that person. Another person's bitterness belongs to that person. Another person's lack of self-control does not require them to abandon their own. This is why truly powerful people often appear almost unsettling during conflict. While everyone expects them to react, they observe. While others rush to defend their pride, they pay attention. While emotions are flying in every direction, they remain focused on reality rather than feelings. They understand that emotional people reveal more about themselves than they realize. Anger exposes priorities. Frustration exposes weaknesses. Impatience exposes insecurities. The calmer you remain, the more clearly you can see what is actually happening beneath the surface. Most people assume calmness means weakness because they confuse emotional restraint with fear. They think silence means surrender. They think patience means passivity. They think a person who refuses to engage emotionally has somehow lost the battle. What they fail to understand is that emotional reactions are often exactly what the other person wants. A manipulative person wants your anger. A toxic person wants your frustration. An insecure person wants your attention. A reckless person wants your participation. The moment you react exactly as expected, you become predictable. Predictable people are easy to control. If someone knows how to make you angry, they can influence your behavior. If someone knows how to offend you, they can guide your emotions. If someone knows exactly which buttons to push, they gain power over your state of mind. Emotional power begins when those buttons stop working as expected. This does not mean emotionally powerful people never feel anger. They do. They feel disappointment, irritation, betrayal, and frustration just like everyone else. The difference is that they do not allow those emotions to make decisions for them. They understand that emotions are temporary visitors, not permanent authorities. They listen to them without immediately obeying them. When chaos enters a room, most people focus on the loudest voice. Emotionally powerful people focus on the clearest thought. While others are busy winning arguments, they are evaluating consequences. While others are trying to prove a point, they are trying to understand the situation. While others become consumed by the need to respond, they are deciding whether a response is even necessary. There is a hidden confidence behind this behavior. A person who constantly reacts is often trying to protect their ego. A person who remains calm is often protecting something far more valuable, their peace. They understand that not every insult deserves attention. Not every disagreement deserves energy. Not every challenge deserves engagement. Some situations become larger only because people keep feeding them with emotion. The strongest individuals know that self-control is not displayed when life is easy. It is displayed when someone tests your patience, questions your worth, attacks your character, misunderstands your intentions, or tries to pull you into unnecessary conflict. While others allow their emotions to be dictated by the behavior of those around them, emotionally powerful people maintain ownership of their inner world, refusing to let another person's anger become their anger, another person's chaos become their chaos, or another person's lack of discipline become the reason they abandon their own. Most people treat their energy as if it is unlimited. They give it away to every argument, every distraction, every unnecessary conflict, and every person who demands a reaction. They wake up with a full mind and spend the day allowing strangers, critics, drama, and meaningless problems to occupy space inside it. By the time they reach the evening, they feel exhausted, frustrated, and emotionally drained, yet they cannot explain why. The answer is usually simple. They spent their energy fighting battles that never deserved their attention in the first place. The people who never lose their emotional power understand something most people ignore. Energy is one of the most valuable resources a person possesses. Unlike money, it cannot be recovered once it is spent. Every emotional argument costs something. Every unnecessary conflict takes something. Every hour spent worrying about people who do not matter removes attention from things that do. The strongest individuals become extremely selective about where their emotional investment goes, because they know that every yes to something meaningless is often a no to something important. Most people believe strength means confronting everything. They think they must respond to every criticism, defend themselves against every accusation, correct every misunderstanding, and prove themselves in every situation. Their ego convinces them that every challenge deserves engagement. The result is predictable. They become trapped in endless cycles of emotional exhaustion, constantly fighting battles that produce nothing except stress. Emotionally powerful people see things differently. They understand that not every fight deserves a fighter. Not every disagreement deserves a response. Not every opinion deserves attention. Some people spend their entire lives trying to win arguments with individuals who have no intention of understanding them. Others waste years seeking approval from people who already decided to dislike them. The battle continues not because it is important, but because someone refuses to walk away. Walking away is difficult because pride hates silence. Pride wants the final word. Pride wants revenge. Pride wants recognition. Pride wants proof that it is right. The problem is that pride often disguises itself as strength while quietly destroying peace. Many of the conflicts people carry are not fueled by necessity. They are fueled by ego's refusal to let go. The emotionally powerful person learns to ask a question that most people never consider. Is this worth my energy? Not can I win? Not am I right? Not should I respond? Simply, is this worth the cost? Because every battle has a cost. Even if you win the argument, you may lose your peace. Even if you prove your point, you may waste valuable time. Even if you defend your reputation, you may sacrifice emotional stability in the process. There is something deeply unsettling about a person who cannot be baited into unnecessary conflict. People expect reactions. They expect anger. They expect defensiveness. They expect emotional participation. When none arrives, they become confused. They cannot understand why their words failed to create the response they wanted. What they fail to realize is that emotional power often appears as refusal rather than confrontation. The strongest people are not always those who fight the hardest. Sometimes they are the ones who recognize which battles are distractions. They understand that life is too short to spend every day defending themselves against noise. Some criticism is useful, most is not. Some conflicts solve problems, most create new ones. Some people deserve your attention, many do not. This mindset changes everything. Suddenly, minor insults lose their power, petty arguments lose their importance, gossip becomes irrelevant, drama becomes background noise. The emotionally powerful person begins to view many conflicts the way an adult views a child's tantrum. They acknowledge its existence without allowing it to dictate their behavior, while others become consumed by proving themselves. Emotionally powerful people become focused on protecting themselves. Not protecting their ego, but protecting their focus, their peace, their goals, and their emotional stability. They recognize that every moment spent feeding negativity strengthens it. Every moment spent chasing conflict expands it. Every moment spent arguing with people committed to misunderstanding them becomes a donation of energy they can never recover. They move through life with a quiet awareness that attention is valuable, emotions are valuable, time is valuable, and peace is valuable. Because of that, they become careful guardians of their inner world, refusing to spend emotional energy on every challenge that appears, refusing to be pulled into every conflict that invites them, refusing to carry burdens that do not belong to them, and understanding that true emotional power is often revealed not by the battles a person wins, but by the countless battles they were wise enough never to fight.